Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Devongives, we're talking now about Psychotic Waltz. Over the years, the other white meat. Devon, over the years there were always rumors that Psychotic Waltz might reunite. Why did it happen just right now? Was it just the offer to be part of the Power of Metal tour, or different occasions? What was the real thing why you are now back?
Well, the Power of Metal tour can be credited for pulling Dan into the picture. But I had been trying to initiate a reunion for about 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, something like that. Ever since I got an offer to play one concert for 20,000 euros, $20,000, something like that. I thought, wow, I guess our standing has gone up. I thought we should get this band back together. And so I start to write to Dan. I said, do you realize we have this offer? And he said, well, yeah, I mean, it's a good offer, but think about it. We'd have to rehearse for several months, and I'd have to relearn all these songs, and going through all of that, when you break down this, for a few thousand dollars each, isn't, to me, that's not really that worth it, And I mean, I even told him, I said, well, if there's this one offer, maybe there's others just like it, And sure enough, the following year, I got that offer twice again from two different promoters. And I wrote him again. I said, look, man, our looks like our value is raising, We should, maybe get on this, and maybe it will be like it never was. And he still wasn't that impressed with it. But he wasn't telling the other guys about these offers. And he was begging me not to say anything. Because he knew if I told, for example, if I told Norm, that Norm would hound Dan day and night until Dan
says yes.
Yeah, and Dan didn't want to deal with that. So basically, then I want to make in the shadow theory is when I was contacted by Ward, who told me him and Norm and Brian are back together in the jam room, starting some new music, and they're reforming the band, and asked if I want to join along. And I said, well, I'd like to do it, but my condition is that all the original members are there.
Means Dan has to be part of
it. And then I was writing Dan saying they're doing it, they're all in the jam room, and asking me if I want to come along, and I'm telling them yes, but then I'm waiting for you. And Dan was telling me why he doesn't want to do it still. He's like, they don't have an objective here, Why should... See, for Dan, it's hard for him because he's working nights. They work in the day. So he's like this nocturnal, and they're the normal day types. And so it's very hard for him to find a time in the day where they can meet and work stuff out. It's not easy. They don't live close together anymore. When we were together, we all lived in El Cajon, We could throw a stone at each other's house, more or less. And now it's 1 hour drive in one direction and another hour in another guy's direction. It's just not as easy as it was. And so I can understand where he's coming from. But yeah, so they had Steve Cox in his place. And that was... we had Steve Cox replacing Brian back for the Bleeding tour, and live it works really well. There's no problem. But I remember when Brian left, that kind of broke up the chemistry which that band was founded on. It's founded on Dan and Brian's work together, their music that they make together. And sure, what I sing over it is an important ingredient too, but when I walked into the jam room of that band before I was in that band, what they had without me was awesome. amazing, and that's why I gotta sing for this band. And every time they would make a new song, it would always be the same. I'd be like, oh man, give me a tape of this. I can't wait. I can't wait to write to this, you know. And toward the end, you know, when it was no longer Dan and Brian, but Steve and Dan, and the music was cool, you know, it was cool, but it wasn't, I didn't have that overwhelming urge to get my hands on it, you know. And that's what made it easy for me to step out. You know, what made it easy for me to do, as I said in the other interview, about kind of go off on my own and explore my own music. And so yeah, now Dan is out and Steve is in instead of Dan. I told him, well, if the music kicks ass, I will do it. You know, I'll decline my first condition on the condition that the music rules. You know, but Dan and Steve and Brian didn't really collaborate much. When Steve just pretty much played whatever Brian asked him to play, so it was Brian single-handedly making this music, which was cool music, but again, I could live without it, especially since I had the Shadow Theory and I was blown away by this music these guys are sending me. Now I get this new Psychotic Waltz music that didn't really, I mean, it had some cool riffs, real cool riffs, and then a part that I don't think is cool, and, you know, kind of going back and forth, and I was thinking, well, I would just gut this song and just take out these good riffs and make a new song, you know, and that's how I felt about most of it. Like, oh, really cool part, and like, oh, but not that. And this is, I'm sure, the process that Dan also would go through with Brian, and vice versa, you know, that they complement each other and that they know how to edit each other. And that's where that chemistry comes from. It's this process of argument and conflict and compromise and creation. Those guys doing it together. And that was the process that this music had not gone through. And that's when I said, Dan, please, you know, we're going to do this. It's not going to work if you don't come, because I think it would be a failure, you know, that I think it would be a disappointment to people. It wouldn't live up to the name. And it would be, honestly, rightly so, because it's not the band. If it's not Dan and Brian or Norm, Ward, we did one album without Ward, but it also wasn't the same, you know. And so I was begging Dan, and Dan's still just not convinced. And but I had already gone public and said that we are back together, and but it was without Dan, was originally the idea. This was before I heard the music and started to beg Dan, you know. And then we started getting a lot of offers for concerts already. We didn't plan on playing in 2011. We planned on getting together, staying in the dark for a year, and coming out with a new album in 2012, and then touring after that. But we got this offer we couldn't refuse for this Power of Metal tour. And Stefan Hattinger from Rock the Nation contacted me and asked if I wanted to do it. And it was a really good offer, and it was no $20,000 a concert or anything like that. Not even anywhere in that ballpark. But it was just a really good opportunity. You know, great bands, a lot of shows, 21 shows, I think. Yeah. In good venues, you know, we're playing an average, I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 people a night. And that was, when I sent that offer to Dan, he said, man, this was the sort of thing I've been waiting for. This was the sort of thing that is worth all of the work we have to go through. You know, this will pay off. And so that got him back in.
What surprises maybe some of the people is that it's not a headlining tour. So your headlining is, I guess, Symphony X and Nevermore, and you're in the third place. You will, I guess, have 45 minutes. Is it maybe because, especially you said, Dan has not this time to put into that the rehearsal is for this tour is so huge and so much work that you said, okay, let's do the 45-minute tour because we can afford this.
That's exactly one of the things. These bigger offers were for headlining tours, and that is like 2.5 hours if we are to live up to our legend, you know. and yeah, the thing with Dan is that he hadn't played guitar in maybe 6 years, ever since he did the last Dark Star album. He just put it away and didn't play ever since. So you tend to forget how to play your songs. I mean, even in such a short space in time, when I would write a Dead Soul Tribe album, and then I would put the song together, then move on to the next and on to the next. By the time I'm finished with the album, I don't remember how to play most of these songs anymore. And so I have to kind of like learn them again, listen to it. What did I play there? Oh yeah, learn it again. And this is a very short space in time, you know, a few months. Dan has considerably more complicated structures in his music, and there's been 6 years since he's played this stuff, so this is a huge amount of work just for him to relearn everything, and then so 2.5 hours worth of material is probably an unsurmountable goal in the time that he had. It was like 3 months, 4 months, you know. He's not like a teenager with nothing else to do but play, you know. He's got to do adult things, and and so yeah, the fact that it wasn't a headlining spot was what made it realistic for him.
There are also 2 festivals confirmed: the Zwarte Cross in Netherlands and the legendary Bang Your Head in Balingen. Both are in mid of July. Will this be the only 2 festivals, or will you? Pretty sure you have a lot of offers for festivals, right?
Yeah, we have to turn most of them down because everybody's got day jobs, you know, and some of them have really good jobs. Like particularly Ward he's like the head engineer, audio video engineer for Qualcomm. This is he's making, I don't know, 85,000 a year, and this is like a career, like a real grown-up job. Even I don't have a job like that, but he is taking a big risk with this Power of Metal tour, like combining his vacation time with a few sick days on each end, and then he could pull it off, and then even doing a couple shows later in the year is him taking a little bit of a risk. And so he says, you know, I can't really do any more than this. And with Dan, it's kind of similar. He also doesn't want to give up his job to be in a band again, you know. So, yeah, we're pretty spent as far as how much time we can tour in 2011. But I think that's kind of a good thing in a way, because it keeps the band a little bit rare. And hopefully it keeps the value up. You know, if we make ourselves too accessible, that maybe the fascination will die down. And also, I would like a little chance to get the Shadow Theory on the stage. And
you spoke about new material. Of course, anyone is curious to know. There might be a new Psychotic Waltz album. What can you say now at the end of 2010? Where are the schedules? Is the songwriting already in process? Are songs ready? And the record company? There's so much things fans want to know.
Well, our main objective of Reforming is to make a new album. Like I said, the Power of Metal thing came as that was a secondary reaction of the news of us reforming, but we were convinced that it would be wise to do some touring before the album and to kind of rebuild the foundation a little bit. And so we all agreed, and that's what we're doing. But the objective is to write a new album. And but ironically, the tour kind of interrupted any progress we would be making to make new material. These guys now just kind of rehearse the set list and stuff. so they won't be doing any writing until after the tour, like in April. And yeah, so to me, the sound of the album is as much a mystery as it is to you. I have no idea what to expect. But now that Dan's back, I kind of have this faith that, I don't know what the sound will be like, but I think it's going to be something interesting, you know. Maybe that they've grown in all these years, maybe their tastes have changed, and maybe it goes into something unexpected, you know. I don't know. I just don't know what it's going to be like.
Will it only be brand new material? Because there was 1997 an announcement for a possible fifth Psychotic Waltz album where some song titles like Medication from Beyond or For the Sake of the Dead were mentioned. Is it maybe possible that some of these songs or part of these songs were taken, or this is all brand new material?
I would like to think we wouldn't do those old ones. Some of that, I remember Medication. This was one that Dan was writing, and this was when I started to kind of cool off on it. You know, I wasn't that blown away by it, and you know, that was a song that Dan made on his own. You know, and the song From Beyond was mostly written by Steve. For the Sake of the Dead, I don't remember that one. The title, I remember the title, but I don't even remember there being a song with that name. And but what I do remember is that material was when I started to cool off on all the enthusiasm for Psychotic Waltz musically, and so I would like to start something new. I wouldn't want to go back and work on rejected material, you know.
Okay. Thank you very much again for your time. Maybe there's anything you want to say to all the loyal Psychotic Waltz fans who are there since the last 12, 13 years when you broke up?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it again. You know, I've gone through a lot of changes, and I left that band with a lot of bitterness, and ironically, most of my problem was towards Dan, and Dan towards me. He and I had a lot of trouble seeing eye to eye on important things, and so because of that, he was always the first one that I would contact with my interest in getting back together, you know, kind of like offering the olive branch, you know, and being in a band like Dead Soul Tribe, it was a lot of fun, and I got to do something I wanted to do, play guitar and write all the music and produce and make all the decisions and stuff like that. And but it also made me kind of appreciate what I had with that band, you know, how great of players they were and how good of friends we really were, and how kind of stupid some of the arguments really were, you know. And I don't think they were all stupid, but I think that even if some of these problems were to come up again, I don't think they would affect me the way they affected me then, because I could just let it just go over my back, you know, like water off a duck's back, as they say, because it's not the only thing I have. You know, when all I had was Psychotic Waltz, I was pretty much just trapped into anything that it would lead me through, whether I liked it or not. And now it's different, you know. Now I'm more liberated, you know. I have the Shadow Theory. If I want Dead Soul Tribe, I can have Dead Soul Tribe. If I want to do some solo music and do something completely different, I can do that. And I can therefore enjoy Psychotic Waltz for what it is. And I'm looking forward to that. And if there's any message I can give, I think when you said the loyal fans, that maybe they're not the ones I have to give this message to, but anyone that's a fan of any music at all, should buy this music, should buy it, and not download it and share it and all that stuff, because, I mean, it's cool to take a taste of something, you know, and see if you like it. You know, CDs are expensive, so I think maybe it might be smart for somebody to take a listen first and see if they want to spend their money on it. But if it's something that they really like, and particularly metal music, because we metal fans like music in a whole other level that most music fans like, say, pop music, or even pop music fans aren't really music fans. They just the music is ambient, you know. Classical music fans are too intellectual about it and too snobby about it. If you watch a concert, a classical concert, if you look at the audience, I'm an observer of people, and if you look at the audience just they're too critical, and they don't really seem to be enjoying themselves. They sit just kind of sitting there judging what they're hearing rather than being moved by it. So I wouldn't want to be in that crowd either. But in metal is the kind of music where people, it's not just music to them, it's kind of like their whole lifestyle, you know? And because metal is no longer a pop art form like it used to be, back when Maiden were big and when Ozzy was filling stadiums, you know, it's no longer supported by the industry. It's only supported by the fans. And so if this kind of music really matters to people, they have to support it, or else it's going to end. It's going to end because we're not going to get record deals anymore. Already the deals are getting so small now, you know. You can no longer live off of it. I was living off of Dead Soul Tribe, and it was already coming down and coming down. And now, for the Shadow Theory, I was I was really surprised that I thought, you know, I knew I'd have to share this money, but I had to share substantially less than I was getting on my own with Dead Soul Tribe, and that was a real shock. And that goes to show that the music business is just suffering, and the independent labels are all on the verge of bankruptcy. So people want this kind of music around. They got to support it, and that means buying CDs, because if they don't, then it's like Lady Gaga and Take That for everyone.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. Don't let it happen to you.
Thank you very much, David.